Hello, my question is what can nations do to reduce violence against women? And I will be starting at 10 seconds. I am a transgender woman. I was assigned male at birth, but I identify and am a woman. But this has given me a unique experience amongst competitors and people. I have been male presenting in public situations where it's dark out and I have to walk to my car. I have also been female presenting in public situations where it's dark out and I have to walk to my car. In the process of transitioning and getting on estrogen or dressing like a woman, I've realized that there's an innate fear in being a woman in public areas, specifically at night. This is a fear that you will be violence will be committed against you simply because you are a woman. And it's a fear that's caused me to have nightmares in my transition just because I am a woman. And those kinds of issues are extremely personal and prevalent to every woman. So I urge you to go and ask the women in your life, or if you are a woman, you know that violence against women is a personal issue and it's something that we all fear. And that is the prevalence of this issue, and that's the question I'll be talking about today, which is what can nations around the world do to reduce that violence and the fear that women face? And to better answer this question, first I'll be talking to you specifically about the root cause of this violence in our society. Then I'll be talking to you about why specifically those kind of gender stereotypes have led to the violence we see today. And in my third and final main point, I'll be talking to you more specifically about what nations can do and the steps that can be taken to reduce this violence. That way, it's much less personal. Now, moving forward with the root cause of this kind of racial violence in the United States or in the world, we can look largely to religious organizations and the idea of thought, both physical and mental, of the way women were perceived in a long time ago. And this can be seen in a New Science article published on April 18th, 2018, where we look specifically at the ideas of women being lesser, and weaker, both physically and also seen as evil from a mental perspective and societal standpoint. The weaker aspect coming in when civilizations were starting up, women couldn't gain as prominent political power because they couldn't fight back when men were violent with them. And this is way back in monarchical days. And this idea led to men simply gaining more power because they were more violent, and women simply didn't have the muscle or strength to fight back. And this led to a patriarchal power and a lack of matriarchal power that led to this schism and inequality and further suppression of women in our society. This can be seen in religious ideologies and mental ideologies, and the idea that women are evil. I work at an art museum, and we are currently holding Victorian art, and there's this idea that the first woman, Pandora, is depicted as bringing all of the evils into the world via Pandora's box. And this is also seen in the Bible with the creation of Eve not only being lesser than man by physically coming from man, the rib of Adam, or this idea that Eve also committed the first sin that damned all of humanity to eternal hell. Now, those ideas translating themselves into movements as recent as the Salem witch trials, where women are persecuted for being witches or just being women. This translating today into a fight against those issues, and this fight expressing itself as an increase in women's rights, where we see the first female vice president in the United States, Kamala Harris, or Angela Merkel, the leader of Germany. And this idea having increased backlash, that backlash being violence, as supported by an Al Jazeera article published on March 14th, 2021, where we look at a case study, the example of Sarah Everard, an individual that was walking home in London 2 miles and was kidnapped and murdered, not just by any general man committing a hate crime or discriminatory crime against a woman, but a police officer, someone who is designated to protect those women from those hate crimes. And this idea presenting itself very, very upfront to people who aren't women, that this is a prevalent issue. There's a reason self-defense items are leaving shelves quickly, and for some reason it's women's faults that these are happening, where women are being told to stay home instead of men who do this to women being punished for it. Now, those ideas as expressed in this case study can represent a stark example of how those sexist ideals from the beginning of human civilization and the idea of the current patriarchy that lays in most American governments and most world governments leads to this idea of female suppression. And the solution to this being this idea that we need to increase the amount of patriarchy, as can be seen by United Nations Women's Division website, where they outline a specific plan on how to reduce violence against women. That way it's not such a prevalent issue in our society, and we can get rid of this idea of patriarchal society suppressing women simply because it is inherently sexist. And those ideas are not only education on women's issues and women's violence, and the idea that it is wrong from a very young age, but at the same time supporting equality, and that is economic equality and the idea between rights equality, because women and men need equal rights but also equal financial opportunity. And that's where government legislation and government activism comes into play, where women simply need to be uplifted, and sexist laws that still exist in a majority of countries around the world need to be uplifted and taken away. That way we can have a more equal situation and representation between the matriarchy and the patriarchy, leading to this idea that women are much more powerful and aren't the evil or innate evil in the world. That way men don't feel the need to attack women whenever they feel invalidated. And those ideas presenting themselves as this speech today and the murder of Sarah Everard, where we can see that these issues are extremely prevalent to all of us women, and it's important for us to realize, and it's important for us to show that they are important and to do something about it. And that starts with each and every one of us. Thank you.